Hi, Stitchers! Welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Lena, here with my co-host Amani, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Jamilla, a Tatreez artist, grad student, and community organizer. Jamilla, we're so glad to have you. Thank you so much for joining us on Tatreez Talk today.
Thanks for having me. Yay, I love that you guys are doing this. So, yeah, I'm honored to be here.
And
Thank
we love your
you.
work. Yes, thank you for
Yes.
being here.
We couldn't do this without amazing artists like you, so thank you.
Yeah, I love
Amazing.
just this like global community of Tatris that's forming. Like it's yeah, it
Yes.
gives me life.
Same. It like energizes me so much, especially
Yeah.
now. Like it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to have.
Yeah. Necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, Jamila, we like to kick off our episodes by getting to know about you and your family's connection to Palestine. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, my Palestinian side is on my dad's side. My dad was born in Gaza. Um, he didn't grow up there. They immigrated to, well, at least my father and his siblings and my grandparents, they immigrated to Kuwait just before the Six-Day War. So he grew up in Kuwait, but I still have a lot of family in Gaza. But we weren't originally from there. Our family was actually um, in the area of Bara, which was one of the villages that was ethnically cleansed during the Nakba, and then they were forcibly displaced into Gaza. Yeah, so uh, that's basically the, the gist of the story. But
Have you been able to go back to Palestine and visit that side of your family at all?
I went to Palestine in 2019, but unfortunately I couldn't go to Gaza because that was, when it was pretty much impossible. So it really was like really heartbreaking. Just, I communicate with my family there and
Hmm.
just being so close, it just felt like insane. Like it would have been, like a 30-minute drive from where I was
Yeah.
to go and hug them and see the house and, walk the land and yeah.
Hmm.
So.
Were you able to go inside 48 and find your family's village?
No, I was there on a delegation
Hmm.
with an organization, so I didn't really have as much like control over where I was going. We were kind of
Totally.
just set up beforehand where we were going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And so, did you also grow up in Kuwait or stateside?
states, Idaho of all places.
Idaho.
Yeah,
Wow.
Okay.
yeah.
All
It's a
right.
story.
I need yeah. Let's break that down.
Let's unpack that a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So like I'd always ask my dad, like, how did you choose Idaho of all places? And for him, it was like, America was like one thing, or it was like everywhere's America, like not really having a conception of like what is more America than other parts. And so there's really good foreign exchange program at the university in the town where my mother was living in Idaho. And so he ended up going to college there, and then that's where he met my mom. So,
Okay, so
Okay.
your
And
mom is from Idaho.
hmm yeah.
Okay.
so you grew
Yeah.
up in Idaho then. Did you grow up with any sense of like a Palestinian community, or like what was your identity, like what was your Palestinian identity like growing up in that environment?
Like, imagine a Palestinian Napoleon Dynamite, like something
I
like
love that movie.
that's actually it was filmed really close to where I grew up. But like we grew up with cultural elements, but also it is such a red state, and especially that
Mm.
area. People were really not about Arabs and especially Palestinians. And it wasn't really till I got older that I like learned, it was the typical story, like our family receiving death threats and all the
Oh.
things that like Arabs in America have experienced. So it was kind of kept a little bit to a minimal.
Hmm.
And then like when my family would come visit, like my grandparents and my aunts, we'd have a lot more of that like cultural aspect that I definitely was missing.
Hmm.
But yeah, missing that is really what kind of like brought me to really like dedicate my life to discovering it more and, ultimately like discovering Tatreez. But yeah, it definitely something like that I really missed and I wish I would have had more of, but it's like, also that like kind of immigrant story too, like assimilate and become safer or, like receive death threats. So
Totally.
yeah.
I'm also curious because you said your mom grew up in Idaho, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How was it, like, what was the experience for her? Like, someone who is from Idaho marries this Palestinian man and suddenly, like, her and her family become a target. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever discussed that because I know you just said that you kind of discovered this as you were older, that it was an issue.
Yeah, I think she just didn't really realize how bad that it was. Like, I think she was like, oh no, this is a perfectly safe area, and then after the fact realizing like, oh, I mean, because it was during the Gulf War when that was happening.
Yeah.
So I think it was like, whoa, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, totally. Like a very heightened time in America,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So then, Jamila, how did you get introduced to Tatreez?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always loved it. I didn't really know that much about it, and then when I went to Palestine, and then just saw it kind of everywhere, and a lot of it was like the machine Tatreez, but I was just like, why is this not in my life? Like, what is going on? Like, I'm just like so in love with this beautiful dress. What's happening? I need to have it. So that was like I like made this promise that I wanted to like learn more about it. And then I'd actually visited my family in Kuwait just after Palestine. And we went to a museum there, and they had, just a bunch of mannequins wearing a lot of the traditional thobes from different, like pre 1948 areas. And I just couldn't believe, like, I just still remember that day of just having chills and just looking at the Tatreez and just like, this is like what I'm missing. Like there's this something like so like magical and deep about this, and I just really need to learn more. And so um at the end of my trip, I was gifted this handmade shawl that belonged to my grandmother, and my great aunt I had embroidered it. And gosh, I like cry every time I think about that. But it was like the most beautiful, it's the most precious item that I own. And it was the most beautiful gift I've ever been given. And I just holding the Tatreez and looking at it and seeing, even just the parts that are a little bit imperfect. And then I was just like, yep, that's it. So I just started Googling Tatreez books, and then I found Tatreez and Tea. I didn't even know Wafa, like I didn't know anything. And I just saw it and I was like, this seems like a good place to start, because I'd never embroidered. I'd never done anything really like sewing wise. And so I ordered the book, and then, yeah, it took about maybe a little over a week to get there, and I just bought my first round of supplies. I was really broke after that trip, so I could only afford like 8 threads or something. So I chose really carefully, and then I just I didn't even know how to cross stitch. I was just like, how do you make this X? Like I didn't know anything, so I learned that from the book and also some YouTube. And then just like every night became dedicated to Tatreezing, and it was also the pandemic hit shortly after, so it was like a time to get really good at just sitting there and unraveling this beautiful art form.
That's amazing. So you kind of like, it was almost like love at first sight, it sounds like, with Tatreez. And so what was your I'm curious, like when you went, like what was your family back home? What was their reaction to your reaction to Tatreez, and like you're kind of like becoming enamored with this art form?
Well, it was funny because I think they like didn't know what to do with me, because they were like, "Oh, like our crazy American like niece is here," and I was just like, "Yeah, like I don't know, take me to museums." And like, so this museum that we go to, where they're like, "We never would have thought that." Of course, why wouldn't we take you to a museum? We've never even been to this museum, and so like we were all familiar. Like, "This is so yeah." We were all like, "This is so amazing." So I think we were all like having this like moment together of just like, wow, our culture is so beautiful, and like this is really amazing experience to be having together. And then, especially just like this, the crazy American, and then just coming in and be like, take me to the Tatreez.
Wait, and also like I didn't even know there was a museum in Kuwait. Do you remember the name?
No, I have like a little postcard of it somewhere, but
Okay.
yeah,
I
I'll have
wonder
to.
if it's because there is I follow them on Instagram. There is
Yeah.
like a Palestinian community, like organization or community center or something in Kuwait that they do beautiful Tatreez work. So I wonder if it's associated with them.
Yeah, I wonder. I wish that I'd like taken more, like documented a little bit more, because like I still was so new to just even just so many
For
aspects.
sure, yeah.
So I was just like, like it was actually overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
can imagine. I can
Yeah,
imagine. But now it's a good excuse to go back and like go
yeah,
back with new eyes. Like now you're going back with the eyes of like a stitcher. So it's going
totally.
to be a very different experience for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And then how did you guys so you kind of learned, you were reading the books, you were kind of like YouTubing and kind of learning on your own. How did your art form begin to evolve and like become the practice that it is today?
Truly, Wafa's classes. I'd like didn't. It took a while to figure out like my style because I was just trying to like learn the motifs and the designs and just following the book and even just like looking at stuff like Googling things. And then I was gifted her some of her classes, and so the first class I took was a kofia class. So we took this like lifta motif. And so I think just like being in the community and like just being around all these different stitchers from all these different backgrounds and seeing everybody's like just unique, um, Tatreez and all the different colors that we would choose. And so I just think, yeah, like learning more techniques and stuff too, just being in that community totally, like I feel like my Tatreez blossomed because of that.
And so, Jamila, your pieces are so unique, and I just love specifically how you embed it into your everyday wear. I guess I would start by asking, how would you describe your Tatreez style?
Yeah, I struggle with how to describe it sometimes because it's very experimental. Like sometimes I just get like immediate inspiration for something and then I just execute it and then I'm like, cool, sweet. And then other times I really like spend a lot of time really like thinking about it and choosing the colors and using like stitch fiddle or but I feel like I don't do that as much. I kind of just like I get the inspiration and then I just kind of go for it and like, usually just kind of walking into my closet and like, okay, like who's my next victim? Let's go. So that's kind of how it's been lately.
That's
What
amazing. So, oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Imani.
sorry. I was going to say like what are some of the things that have been like inspiring you lately?
Um so basically just like intifada designs.
Okay.
When people started making intifada motifs, like after October, I was really inspired by that. And then just kind of even like figuring out some of my own as well, and especially with like using the Palestinian flag colors, um, has kind of just been my way of like just transmuting some of this like just anger. But yeah, really inspired by Intifada thobes and just continue to revisit the some of the original ones.
I'm also curious. So I know you do community work as well. You're a community organizer. You're like out here doing the hard work. How has your Tetris practice impacted your community work?
It's really beautiful because it actually is truly what started it. So
Okay.
I last there every year at my school there's this week long event of it's called the Campus Community Dialogue on Race, and so it's just like different speakers presenting on different topics like, and so I just knew that I wanted to do something for Palestine because I mean this area is very underrepresented with Arabs, especially Palestinians, and people are really misinformed. And this was before October 7th. So I planned to do a Tatreez talk and just explain Tatreez as a resistance art form and how it's evolved over the years, and to tell the stories of Palestinians. And so then it was scheduled for, I believe it was October 16th. And so then October 7th happened. And then it was like, I actually got so many people, I didn't even think they were going to let me do it. But I got so many people registering. So I had to book the biggest venue for it that we have on campus, and it was like well attended. I mean, it was completely packed. Like people were ready to like for that. And I never would have expected that. And so it totally turned into this thing that it was just like all these people that were like, really moved by what's happening, wanting to learn more, not just about like the history of Palestine, but even just like the culture. And so many people were coming to me and like really wanting to like, how do I get involved or how do we end this? And so then I just kind of started leading like, protests and having like film screenings and just ways for us to like have more conversations. And it really just continued to grow, and just people really wanting to consistently show up and be involved, and realizing just how like not only horrible this is, but how intersectional that it is. So I'm just so humbled that and just grateful for Tatreez for so many things, but also like just the power of Tatreez really, I think, brought people in this community together.
Yeah. I mean, I always say this, but like art definitely is this universal language that I think, especially in topics that are quote unquote scary for people, like the topic of Palestine, art is like this, it's this easy entryway into the conversation for a lot of people who may not know how to enter in any other way. So, kudos to you. Like, and what's going on now? I know before we started recording, you had mentioned that you were kind of just wrapping up summer semester. So how has now, like, gosh, I can't even believe I'm gonna say this, but like almost a year into the genocide, like, how has that evolved for you and like within your Tatreez practice and your local community and the work you're doing?
Yeah. Well, it's actually really wild, because when I first was getting into Tatreez and, just spending time just reading the books and working on the designs. And I just felt like I really want to I want to have an event. I want people to like see the Tatreez and like, but learn about the history. And like, I want it to be like all these things. And so, it just was this like dream of a vision that wasn't fully like evolved. But one of the events that me and my community put together, I think it was just a month ago, it was like a memorial for Palestine. For the last 5 months, we had this table at our farmers market for people to come and make paper birds for to honor a children that was martyred in Gaza and to have their name on it. And so we built this like huge inventory of these birds, and then we displayed them for the memorial. And we had different speakers and poetry, and then we even had like I had like a whole Tatreez table of just like a bunch of pieces that I've done and all the books and just different other cultural elements. And we even did debka and like, had some like, fun cultural, joyful moments. And it felt like this culmination of something that I'd envisioned for a while. And I didn't do it by myself by any means, but I think how it's evolving is doing this work alongside so many other people and so many people wanting to come and be involved in it. Yeah, I'm just still continuing to like use Tatreez to like tell stories too. Like one of my more recent designs that I created, which was like an Intifada chess piece. And I just love wearing it. I love wearing it around, like just casually like shopping, and people are just like, what is that? Like, what did you make that? Like, what's going on? Tell me the story. And like, yep, so here's like Al-Aqsa, here's some resistance triangle, like I feel so empowered when I wear Tatreez. And so I'm always like wearing it at our events yeah, it's just such a huge part of who I am and just who I'm continuing to grow, how I'm continuing to grow as a person. So something that I will be doing this next year, because there's a lot of like racism on my campus and a lot of normalization still happening, a lot of hush hush. So I'm going to be offering these like anti-Palestinian racism trainings. I'm a director of this organization on campus that we like really focus on like international students and undocumented students. And so I'm just kind of doing it through that organization and offering them like on campus and in the community, and just trying to just continue to like get people brought up to speed that are still kind of using like two-state terminology,
Yeah.
or just all those pieces the answer type things. So that's my next project.
That's incredible. And okay, so I have a couple of follow-up questions to all of this. One is, have you, through this process, found other people to practice with? Is there some sort of like coming together with people who have kind of learned from you and on what Tatreez is and what it represents and actually tried to learn? Has that happened as a result of all this community work?
I've had a lot of people really want to learn, and so I do have it on my list to teach a class. I just
Yeah.
have been so busy with school, but yeah, so many people are really. I actually like sent out like an interest form of people that would like to participate, and so people are like ready. And
Amazing.
I gave options too of like, what are the motifs that you want to learn, like traditional Gaza or like different villages or intifada, and everybody's like intifada.
Oh, that's so good.
That's amazing. Definitely let us know how we could support you.
Yeah.
And then my second follow-up question is actually kind of maybe it's something that you can share with everyone who's interested while they're waiting for you to offer a class. Is maybe like tips on how you put your tatreez on everyday items. Like, are there specific types of fabrics that you like working with that you recommend? Are there parts of different pieces? Like, I noticed that you'll do things like on the collar, on pockets, or like are there like strategic approaches, I guess, to the way that you do tatreez on your everyday wear?
Yeah, I feel like no fabric is safe from the freezing almost. So it's like I think you just have to like something I've learned when I'm working with a thinner fabric is like putting interfacing on the back, which makes a huge difference.
And
But
do you do that before or after the tatreez?
I do it before.
You do it before, okay.
Yeah, but I'm kind of moving away from that. I'm trying to do tatreez more on sturdier fabrics or like linens and things that are gonna last a little bit longer. My experimental phase of like putting it on really thin fabric was cool, but I see that it doesn't really hold up for like the longevity of tatreez should last forever. So I'm trying to more move towards like things that really do feel like they could last forever. But I don't know, like I feel like you can kind of put it everywhere. That's just kind of as long as your hand can get in there, like I say go for it.
If the needle gets through the fabric, it will
Yeah,
be stitched on.
We don't
yeah.
recommend starting with denim though, although I can't say I've
No.
tried actually, so I can't say. But
Okay, so
'cause it
here's the thing. My
scares me.
cousin just did a denim jacket, but she was really smart about it. She actually got a fairly thin denim. So it was like, it wasn't too bad. Like, she was able to
Yeah.
use a regular, like, tapestry needle. She didn't need, like, something
Oh
crazy
wow.
sharp. Yeah. So,
Okay.
it's possible. It's possible. We gotta all take
Yeah.
inspiration from Jamila and, like,
Yes.
experiment a little. I'm not that, I'm not that carefree yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying to get there, Jamila.
Yeah, don't worry, I got you.
And okay, so what about like people who I'm curious for like people who are Tatreezers, who both Palestinian and non-Palestinian, who maybe want to get involved in like community work. What would you recommend? Like, how can they take that leap? Like, they're already involved culturally. How can they take that leap to get involved within community organizing and community work?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so many ways to do this work, and it really is just like what comes, what interests you the most and what comes more natural to you. Like, I never really, I used to be so shy. I can't even believe how much public speaking that I do now. Like, I'm just like, okay, that was a total 180. But like, the film screenings was something that was like a really good way for me to start because it was like, well, this doesn't require me to like speak a bunch, but we can like leave space open to talk afterwards or not, or even like come up with discussion questions beforehand so you don't have to like discuss on the fly. But I felt like that was such an easier way to like get a little bit more comfortable with kind of doing more like organizing. And there's just so many great films to choose from. I mean, you can go the educational route, you can go the like, the hard route in some of those like really tough films, and you can also go lighthearted or even just featuring like Palestinian um, directors. So I feel like, there's always that. And then just even like, our culture's so beautiful, and there's just so many ways that like we can share that, and that I do think is forms of organizing and forms of resistance, like teaching a debka class, or cooking food and inviting people, and just keeping it lighthearted, if you don't want to go down the route of like the tougher kind of subjects. But yeah, I just feel like I'm always inspired by just all the ways that there is to do this work, and I just think it's important to like honor where your skill set and interests are, rather than being like, I've got to like become a researcher, or like
Yeah.
create, like be like on the spotlight, like, because that's not for everybody.
Yeah. No, and I like how you put it. It's like there are so many different ways to get involved and honoring your skill set, as you said.
Yeah.
Do you have any go-to resources that you will leverage for some of these events, or like I don't know, like I think in New York, for example, the People's Forum has incredible resources over here for organizing, going to protests, all that kind of stuff. Do you have any that you kind of go to, or you're just kind of going with it as you go?
Like that I lead people to keep like educating themselves, or just for like how to become a community organizer?
I guess a little bit of both. I mean, like when you're thinking about hosting an event, for example, do you go to certain resources to gather those discussion questions, for example, or like a list of films? Like, do you know, like there's a place that online that people can go and just, to find one, or is it just you're finding things as you go and sharing it with the people in your community?
Yeah, I guess that's making me realize I think I'm just experimental in nature, because that's usually how, I mean, I do plan, but yeah, I feel like sometimes actually something I do is I have alerts on the Arab Film Institute, like
Oh,
whenever they
okay.
post something on Instagram. So when there's like a new film, I try to like I do that with a few different other organizations. I forget what some of them are, but just so I can like stay alert on like new films and things that are coming out, or different like talks. I have just like I really utilize that alert function on Instagram, like for people that are doing a lot of like that educational piece, and then just like making sure that I'm staying up to date on that, and then kind of like planning around that.
Going a little bit back to your Tatreez work, are there any Tatreez related projects that you're working on right now? Like what are your needle and thread doing right now?
A lot of things. I'm currently working on this collaborative design series with this amazing painter. Her name's Caroline Gantos, and I'm doing the Tatreez chess pieces, and then she's painting the Palestinian women. And so we've only completed one so far, but yeah, we have others that are in the works. And yeah, she's just amazing. I was so honored that she even asked me to be involved at all.
So wait, are you you're actually stitching like the canvas that she's painting? Like, what's the materials that you guys are using? I'm very curious about that. I love collaborative art, so I'm like, ooh, tell me everything.
Yeah, we were like, we weren't sure how we were gonna do it, so we just started with me. I just tilted these on Ada cloth.
Okay.
And she stitched the Ada cloth onto the canvas,
Okay.
and then
Ooh.
yeah,
Very cool.
we're
Very
gonna stick
cool.
with that method.
Do you
Ooh,
have
okay.
pictures of this
Yeah.
first one?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram,
Okay.
and then it's on hers as well.
Okay, we're gonna have to definitely highlight that because that sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really special.
How did you guys come up with this collab?
We'd been in like connection for a while. We just like following each other, and then she reached out to me, yeah, not long after October last year with this vision that she had, and we just got on FaceTime call, and we're just like, okay, how are we gonna do this? Like, cause she lives in Dubai, so I'm like,
Oh wow,
it's gonna be really
yeah.
expensive to like send all this if we're just experimenting. So we just she did a lot of research, and I did some too, and then yeah, we just kind of decided some villages of like the traditional motifs that we'd like to do. And yeah, and it just kind of, we flow. I think it just kind of flowed really naturally.
Yeah. How many
Yeah.
pieces are you guys planning for this series?
4.
Okay. Oof.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to see. That sounds really, really cool. Okay. What else are you working on? I'm like, tell me more. Give me my inspo.
Yeah. I'm also working on, I just kind of got inspiration for another like smaller like Intifada chess piece. This one's like a little bit less intense than the last one that I did. It's more just like Palestinian flag colors with other designs. But yeah, it's like for like an address on like that would go underneath an abaya. So that's my next victim. Yeah, that I'm currently stitching.
So cool. Wait, okay. So do you do any sewing as well, or do you primarily just do tatreez on like existing items in your closet?
I can do like very minimal sewing, like at least like putting a chest panel or a chest piece onto like a dress. But I'm not like, epic by any means.
Oh, no one is. It's okay.
That's more than I can do, girl. So.
Yeah. Well, because you mentioned a lot of chess pieces. Are you doing a thobe at any point? Is that like on the list?
I want to actually I need to like follow your lead, because I know you you were just like, all right, I'm doing it and I'm figuring it out as I go. And so I need to. I think I did the chess piece, the Intifada chess piece, as like getting my toes, like, can I do this? And I can do it. So yeah, but I'm definitely like thinking about all the panels, and that like really scares me, but I really want to do it. I'm going to be really intentional. I'm not going to be experimental with this one. I really
Why
got
not?
it. Like,
Wait, no, you should be experimental. I mean, it's a big one, so like if you don't like it, then that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I feel like you'll probably like it. All your experiments seem to have you had any failed experiments?
Yeah.
Okay.
So many. Yeah. Like we don't talk about that. Yeah. Lots of waste canvas, unfortunately, but that's just part of learning.
Yeah, that's part of the trial and error process. It's part of the creativity process too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like the one that I remember being the most embarrassed about, because it was my first class that I mentioned I'm taking with Wafa, and we had to embroider on like a piece of Aida cloth to sew onto the kofia, and I had back then it was like no sewing skills like at all. And I like didn't even like measure properly either. So like the design, you're supposed to have like, a good couple inches or whatever, and I just I cut the Aida cloth like barely to the side.
Oh, no.
That happens so often when people start though. So it's a common mistake.
It's like falling apart. And then when we got to like show, or like it was like the class where everyone like shows their like piece, and then as everyone's going around, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so embarrassed. And when it got to me, I was like trying to hold the corner down instead of just having and saying what I did wrong. But yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
It happens. It sounds like it was a smaller piece though, so it's not too much tatreez lost.
Yeah,
that's good.
Whew. Yeah.
It's all a part of the process.
It is. I redid it, but yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna make that mistake again.
Yeah. I hear you.
Oh
I
my
hear
goodness.
you. Oh, okay. Well, Jamilla, before we, wrap up, we always like to ask people, what are any major life lessons that you may have gained through your practice of tatreez?
To connect with your ancestry, and in whatever way that speaks to you, but especially with art forms, and especially when, sometimes we don't have words to even comprehend what's going on, or, or we don't have like, connections to our family as much as we'd want to be, or we don't have like this, elders that we can turn to like for their wisdom or for their cooking, or all these things that, a lot of us are missing in diaspora, or even just coming from mixed families. And so connecting with your culture really can be so reparative and healing, and offer so much grounding and connection to you. Even when, in the absence of those ancestors, I think they get closer to you when you connect with those art forms especially, and they come to you and they speak to you, and I think that it makes them happy, and it can bring just so much personal healing too.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
very
for
beautifully
joining
said.
us. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I
And
love our Tatreez.
I
Yes.
know. I know.
Seriously, no, I cannot wait to see all the projects you create. I'm really excited to see all the pieces in this series that you're working on too, and definitely you must keep us posted on your journey. And I'm sure Lena will be sending you lots of encouragement to start your thob. I know
Yes,
her.
yes.
I am.
Yes, I need it.
I'm a big proponent of making a thwab. So the ultimate Tatreez journey. But I actually, you inspire me to put more Tatreez into my everyday, because like you said, you feel so empowered when you wear Tatreez, but I'm not going to wear my thob like just out and about. I mean, I could, but like I don't want to. But having something kind of very visible on like on your shirt, or like really even if it's subtle, I think it can speak a lot to your culture and to everything about Palestine as well. Jamilla, thank you so much for joining us. Where can everyone find you? Include the places for both the Tatreez and the community organizing.
Yeah. My Tatreez page is Leelaja Tatreez. It's spelled Leelaja. Actually, I think there's a dot after that. And then my community organizing work is Humboldt for Palestine.
And we'll have those in the show notes as well, so people can find you. Amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jamilla. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
So I have to be honest, when I first reached out to Jamilla, I didn't realize that she was so active in her community. And I thought that was so powerful that Tatreez was what introduced her to it. That's amazing.
Right? I know. I love it. And it seems like all very, very seamless. Like it just seemed like it very naturally flowed for her. So that's really cool. And I'm also, God, I'm gonna sound like such like a California jerk, but like I am so fascinated like with people who like Arab who grow up in the middle of nowhere, like Idaho, like what? No, I am.
That's not what I thought you were gonna say.
Bro,
Okay.
no, I so am, because I'm like, what was that like? Like that seemed, I don't know, that's just like so different from what I experienced. So yeah, sorry, that's like a weird thing that I always take away. I'm like, how did you, like, I just grew up with such a big community, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the reverse culture shock, if you will. But I love how, like, she was able, like, I love how she goes, sees Tatreez, and, like, khalas, instantly falls in love. It's like this, and her ancestors were already there telling her, like, no, girl, that's your thing.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I think that's what's so really, like, that's so beautiful about Tatreez. It's like not even just like you were mentioning in the episode, it's like an entryway for conversation, but it's like not even just that. It's an entryway for every Palestinian to connect to Palestine.
Totally.
And I think that's like so, I love it.
It's an easy way, you know, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, I know we've talked about this before, Banna, but like, you know, for me and like our community, we host regular Tatreez circles, and we definitely have seen since October so many more Palestinians and non-Palestinians coming through and like having this newfound interest because of what's going on. And again, it's like this easy entryway. Like, look, I get it. I would love for everyone to like be as aggressive as I am, if you will. But everyone has their lane and everyone has their role. And if art can be that thing, if the Tatreez can be that thing to bring you in to Palestinian culture and Palestinian life and start, again, Palestinian or non-Palestinian, but start making you more comfortable talking about these things and understanding these things, I think that's amazing. And if that's what gets you in and that's the lane that you're comfortable in, ahla sahla, you know, I love that.
Yeah. And you know, it's so interesting, like even for someone like, okay, both of us grew up in, you know, generally we were very aware that we were Palestinian growing up, but even
so aware.
But you know, like even like years later, and even after I've been doing Tatreez now for a few years as well, I still find Tatreez is such an easy way to open that conversation. Even like we have a book club in the building that I live at, and the book that we chose this month was very good, by the way. It's called Babel, however you pronounce that. Everyone should read that if you're into fiction. It's like, it's just amazing. But it's a lot of it talking about colonialism and how bad it is, obviously. And like, even for me, someone who's like I love talking about this to anyone that I can find. Everyone in that book club, there's no Palestinian in that book club, okay?
Yeah,
obviously. But for me, like to come out and like, I was saying some quote unquote like radical things about like, you know, the only way to topple a violent system is through violence. Like that's something that is like a line that people cannot necessarily resonate with, or you have to kind of go through this, I don't know, awakening, I guess, to understand that phrase. I was able to say that really confidently because I prefaced it with a story about Tatreez. And the Tatreez part was what got everyone kind of like eyes open and like, oh, like let me listen. And I didn't feel like it came off as radical, quote unquote radical, as it would have if I hadn't kind of had that Tatreez entrance.
Yeah.
And so I think it just continues to build on all of it. And maybe Tatreez is the answer. And it's not the answer, but like it's part of the answer.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
It's one of the many layers of the answer, if you will.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I'm so glad we had Jamilla. I'm glad we had that conversation with her, and definitely excited to continue to see her art flourish. But we'll have so many more amazing conversations to come, I know. But everyone, thank you so much for listening to Tatreez Talk. Of course, we want to hear about your Tatreez journey, so please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com, and we might have you on an upcoming episode. Of course, do not forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platforms, and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. You can follow me at Min Amani and Lina at Lina Stob, and of course, follow the pod at Tatreez Talk. We will talk to you soon.